We are going to talk about the prehistoric Arkansas woodland culture and the Mississippian culture of the people that lived here in Arkansas. We're going to start with the Plum Bayou group. Um, the Plum Bayou were mound builders who lived in present day Arkansas near the end of the woodland period. They built an elaborate village near Scott, Arkansas, with 18 large earthen mounds. And some of you may have been there. I would love for you to try to go to the Toltec mounds. That's just where this is. Because they were known to be stargazers, the astronomers and astronomers, the mounds were built in line with movements of the sun and the moon, and they could tell what time it was and so forth. The Plum Bayou had traditions with their mounds. The mounds were most often used for rituals, or they were part of a religious practice. Some of them were used for burial of important people. They traded goods with cultures as far as away. They were traders, and they traded with cultures as far away as Florida. They had a special hierarchy, placing people in levels of different status or importance. Agriculture was very important for them. Um, Agriculture was very important for him. The Plum Bayou planted gardens and raised crops for food. They used digging tools like hoes with blades made of chipped stone or bones or shells. Some of them were hunters. They were not only gardeners and raised crops, some of them were hunters who traveled out to hunt for their food. They adopted new technology, which was the bow and arrow, to replace the use of a spear, which took a lot more longer to be able to get their meat. But it helped them quickly sustain meat for their families. They have several artifacts that are very interesting. They were potters. Um, they created a kiln, and in the kiln, they made clay vessels which were used to store their food that they harvested for the winter. The Mississippian period culture is the other culture of this time. It was prehistoric, but it was came after the woodland culture. The Mississippian Indian people lived in communities in the Delta region and the Mississippi River Valley of Arkansas. They built large villages with walls all around them to protect them from invaders. And their homes were built like a square, and it was made by with wattle and daub, which were very sturdy. Wattle is whenever they weave branches together and then they cover it with a mud, and it hardens and it makes the walls very strong. Wattle is the weaving of the branches, and daub, you might could remember this, are like a dirt dauber builds their nest and it's like mud, and that's what daub is. The Mississippian people were very dependent on agriculture. That was very important to them because they raised corn and pumpkins and squash and beans, and they would take these quantities of food and store them in underground storage containers for later use. They had powerful leaders or chiefs who regulated the community's wealth and all their trade routes because they were traders. Uh, the Mississippian culture created pots in the shape of people or animals, as you can see in the pictures. And archaeologists, when they found them, they called them effigy pots. Another trade that they did was they would harvest the salt from the natural salt springs in southwest Arkansas. They would take the water from the springs and they would boil it and boil it down until it left soft salt deposits at the bottom of the pot, and then they would scrape those up and they would bag them and they traded it with other Indians in their region. That is all we're going to talk about today. Um, I need for you to make sure that you get your notes.